Hello everybody, it's me Joe, and I'm back with Lazerpig! Oh boy, I'm in trouble, aren't I? Fuck. Okay, hi everybody, yep, it's me, we're back, and we're back with something a little special. Yeah, as everyone knows, I missed Lazerpig last weekend. I was busy and just bushwhacked, so I had to skip it. Anyway, we are back with more Lazerpig. And this time, we're here with the magical horseshit of the Horton 229, Hitler's quote-unquote stealth bomber. Now, of course, I know about the Horton 229. It's a giant flying Dorito, basically. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But before we watch this video, make sure you like and subscribe, turn on notifications, and of course follow me on all my social media. And if you want us to keep supporting this channel and give Koa over here cookies, by all means support me on Patreon. Yes, welcome random. But yeah, apparently today we're looking at the Horton 229. This should be interesting. Now I know of the fighter, but I actually don't. This is one that has actually flown a little under my radar. No pun intended. But this should be an interesting time to learn, since that is what this is all about, learning. History is about learning, and hopefully all my shit is set up properly. For once. Okay. Anyway, let's get this video started, shall we? Let's see what the pig has in store for us today. And there is no alcohol today because I wish for my liver to last longer than I do.
The door opened. Hitler gasped as the towering figure of Hermann Göring stood over him. "You may be the Führer of Germany and the world," he purred, "but tonight I am the man in charge." He began to peel the tight uniform from his body, revealing the surprisingly toned silk-skinned torso of a true Bavarian, gleaming in the scented candlelit room of the Berghof. "Oh, mein Papa," the Führer whispered. The lust he had held deep within him now erupted like the flames over Poland. That was an extract from a Hitler Göring Gala fanfic. That exists, and don't you wish it didn't? Was that important information to know? Yes, don't interrupt.
I need a quick minute. I need to hug the puppy. I need to hug the puppy. Okay. Why did I need that? I didn't need that, Koa. I didn't need that. Why the fuck did that have to exist? Why the fuck does that exist, pig? You goddamn swine! Now I'm really regretting not having alcohol.
Good evening, my name is Lazerpig, historian, outbreeder, mother of 12, man, presumably, and supreme leader of the world inside your head. You watch this video at your own risk. There is a lot to explain, so I hope you are sitting comfortably on your expensive computer chair, sofa, or beanbag if that's how you choose to live your life. You're traveling with me on an adventure into a different dimension, through a door that leads to a world of historical drama where such petty, meaningless things such as facts and historical accuracy have typically held little sway over the Denzians who dwell down here. From here on in, we dive into the quagmire of the Luftwaffe, an area of Second World War history so plagued with heroes of such a devotedly high caliber, many of them do not even realize they are one. And by opening yourself up to the knowledge held in this video, you may inadvertently find yourself becoming a target of their prepubescent aggression. I warn you, dear sir, madam, and or neither, from here on in, there is no turning back. You are about to enter the sweaty zone. Still here? Good. Yeah. Right. Let me set you the scene. The room is dark. Yet in the darkness you gain a sense of just how impressive a room it is. Golden chandeliers hang from the ceiling, great tapestries and paintings hang from every wall, and in one corner a vast, dark oak desk dominates the scene. Standing at this desk is the equally large and dominating figure of Hermann Göring.
The blubbering walrus, as I like to call him, because, I mean, Jesus effing Christ! Look at the size of that fuck! God, how the... Again, I will reiterate, how the fuck was this guy ever a fighter pilot? They probably needed the fucking... like a fucking infantry division to hoist his ass into a fucking biplane. Christ almighty, how were you ever... How did Richthofen ever let you into his squadron?
Mentioned earlier, Minister in command of the Luftwaffe and Hitler's named successor. This is 1944. Göring has an impressive list of failures behind him, but he's still
Battle of Britain, Battle of Stalingrad, the whole Eastern Front, basically, the Italian campaign, the African campaign. Yeah, impressive list of failures. So impressive, by the way, that literally it took... Oh, this guy was a fucking moron.
And respect, somehow, and still holds the ear of Adolf Hitler. But unlike his furiously defiant leader, Göring knows the war is not going well. And like Hitler, he clutches onto straws, desperate for some new wonder weapon to turn the...
Aristocrat? Oh, that actually... Ugh. Brother, he was an asshole. He was just as big an asshole as all of them jokers. Moving on.
Tide of war. Göring has put out the call, and people everywhere are fighting for his attention, desperate for one of the highly prized government contracts that will feed them, provide shelter out of the many nightly bombed cities, and most importantly, keep them off the front lines. The reigning champion of this was Eugen Sonnier, who for 6 years managed to convince the German High Command to fund his idea for an orbital bomber plane, which was basically a plane he was going to stick a load of rockets on and fire down a train track. But it would work, provided they give him a lot of cash, a big staff of researchers, a fancy research laboratory, and most importantly, give him more stuff than his leading rival Werner von Braun, so he could give him and the rest of the Society for Space Travel, who thought his ideas were too stupid to ever work, the middle finger. Anyway, where was I? Right, so everyone who is smart and has a technical mind has pretty much figured out they can escape the horrors of war by, well, becoming a Nazi scientist. And out of all the generals and commanders Nazi Germany has left, Göring is the one with the power and the resources to make it happen. And with now things so desperate, there's very little he won't agree to. Many things have crossed his desk, from giant tanks and rocket fighters to laser guns and tornado cannons. Some have got into production, but most are the work of fantasy. And none have yet given the Germans the technological edge they so desperately crave. Though that tornado cannon was used in combat.
It was.
Once.
And it failed.
It missed. But now a new concept sits on Göring's desk, and it has potential.
Oh, does it?
He reaches out and helps himself to another eclair, stuffing the chocolatey, creamy delight into his face as his piggy eyes glaze over. The people in front of him, still living on civilian rations, starving as they watch Göring shove yet another eclair into his face hole.
What the fuck?
I've no idea if that's true. He's just very fat. You know, you don't get to that size on military rations.
What the fuck are you doing?
Pork pies down your front. He picks up the plans, studying them carefully. A new type of plane. It had no tail, no propellers, no control surfaces. Its shape is bizarre, radical almost, and yet it can carry a ton of bombs over 600 miles and fly faster than any Allied plane known. This is the weapon that Göring has been looking for, and he eyes it greedily, much like the eclairs. This is the 229, the Horten Ho. Now, we have a lot to talk about when it comes to this particular aircraft, of which I will admit to being a bit of a fan of, which you can now fly for free in War Thunder, if you like to torture yourself by grinding for 4 years in a barely playable, unfinished game that constantly begs you for money. And I can say that because they don't sponsor me. Nor probably ever will. So, if you like occasional cutting remarks at just how shit the management team is behind War Thunder, you've subscribed to the right channel. The Horten Ho was the brainchild of two brothers. The Horten brothers, obviously. Brothers Romer and Walter, who had approached Göring with their prototype glider, the Horton H9, something they had developed during Germany's pre-war glider club program. Gliders were Germany's way of bypassing the Treaty of Versailles, of testing new aviation designs, training pilots, discovering potential new pilots through civilian programs. Many of Germany's fighter aces would start life off as glider hobbyists. And if you don't know what the Treaty of Versailles is, imagine France tells you you're not allowed to do something. That's how you get Brexit Nazis. That's how you get Nazis.
Well,
the H9 was developed by the brothers as a way of testing the idea
I'm American,
of
I can't comment on European
great
affairs
gliders
at
with
this
vastly
point.
improved operational range. It didn't, Mike. Contrary to popular belief, flying wings were not a new concept and had been around since the 1920s after a number of swept-wing biplane prototypes by British inventor J.E. Dune. Dune. I'm going with Dune.
Yeah.
Led to the Westland Hill Pterodactyl, which were a number of tailless flying wing
The
prototypes.
fuck is
some
that?
of which are now appearing on the screen, that you will be able to see if you stop playing your game and listening to this in the background. I don't care if you're too poor to afford 2 screens. You gotta minimize and look at these things. Too late, it's gone now. I mean, we waited for you, but you obviously had other things to do. This in turn was rivaled by Hugo Junkers, who was less interested in building fighter planes and glider concepts, and instead wanted to create an all-wing transatlantic passenger plane.
Damn!
Which would eventually become the Junkers G-38, which still had a tail, and wasn't powered by rockets, which I'm very sad about. It wouldn't be till the 1936 Berlin Olympics that Russian designer Boris Ivanovich Sharanovsky, who had worked independently under Stalin, would show off one of the world's first functioning flying wing designs, competing in air races directly against the Horton H1 in the 9th glider competitions. Competing designs would also be featured by the now famed Ukraine designer Antonov. These were merely considered motorized gliders, and the Russians would do very little with the concept. The giant flying wing aircraft known as the Kanalan 7, which had previously dominated the early Russia strong meme scene of the late 90s and early 2000s.
God, I remember that era.
Battleship cannons is sadly a creation of early Photoshop.
Yeah.
And the actual plane was a hell of a lot more basic looking. I mean, it still looks fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Kind of shit as a bomber, though. In fact, this is widely regarded as one of the worst planes ever built. But if you get a bunch of these information, it's impressive as all hell.
Yeah,
if you wanted to see a real flying wing, then look no further than America, because the US has to do everything bigger and better than everybody else, obviously. Justin L. Elshman, the most American man who ever lived, built the Elshman FW5, known more commonly as the wing, and is frankly one of the weirdest things to ever take to the sky.
What the?
But the other design, probably the more famed design by the one and only Jack Northrop, I'm not going to show you just yet. Let's get back to our little Horton and the primary reason for making this video. Flying wings are not unique, and this is not the first one to take to the skies, though it may be the world's first jet-powered one. And this is not the reason Hirabus, or Veribus if you want, and the like are obsessed with this machine. In fact, it's rather more complicated than that. See, if you take a good long look at the Horton, maybe tilt your head slightly, squint a bit, take a step back, further back, and maybe, just maybe, it kinda looks like a stealth bomber.
Time the fuck out. Okay. Now I know where this myth, what we're talking about. We're talking about the stealth myth. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to spoil it for everyone, and right now I really don't care. No, it is not stealthy. It was never designed to be stealthy. It wasn't. It wasn't stealthy. The reason, and when it comes to the B-1 fucking bomber and the future B-21 Raider that's coming out soon, the reason those are stealthy is not just because of the design. The design's only a small part of it, but it isn't the fucking full-on factor. The whole reason is, oh boy. The whole reason that the B-1 and the B-21, in fact, all stealth aircraft, the reason that they are stealthy is because they are made with special radar diffusing materials and paint. Stuff that is meant to confuse radar. I don't know the full details because, like all big military projects, it is classified. From BJ. $5! Hey! Thanks for the $5! Appreciate! Oh, thank you. I'm honored. But yeah. The fucking... to make a stealth aircraft, you need stealth requires quite a lot of shit. It requires a specific design shape that helps, like, bounce radar off. It also requires special radar absorbing paint and materials that prevent radar from actually detecting that. Stealth is a very, very complicated and very, very expensive thing. That's why we don't have, like, hundreds of F-22s or F-35s or such like that, and why we have way fucking more, like, regular airplanes, because stealth is really kind of only necessary if you're, like, intercepting or striking somebody and you just don't want anyone to see you. So, yeah. But let's get on with this, shall we?
And that theory might not be entirely mad. Certainly it is the right shape, and there are lots of little facts that fit neatly into this theory, giving credit to the idea that not only is the Horton potentially a stealth bomber, but it may have partially inspired the design of the B-2 Spirit. And I love the B-2 Spirit. I would make sweet, sweet love to that plane. If they would ever let me near one.
It was the B-2. Fuck. I'm out of it. I'm still
So if it's true, why make this video? Why bother to discredit anyone who believes it?
What the fuck's wrong with me?
Like all things in life, the facts are not as simple as you may understand them. If you're a hardcore fan of Lazerpig, you may remember a very badly edited, hastily thrown together stream I did back on my birthday in December. You don't have to watch it, it's very, painful. Ooh. But if you take anything from it, take from it two things. Firstly, the Second World War is such an overly complicated thing, spread out on such a vast scale, that the average mind becomes overwhelmed, and often it demands a simple explanation to sum up a very complicated situation.
That's fair.
Terry Pratchett called this lies to children, by ways of oversimplifying complicated things to the point where a child can understand them, even if that simplification makes the fact wrong. His example being the way rainbows are made by raindrops splitting light. This is how light refraction works, but is not how rainbows are made. Technically. Well, it is and it isn't. It's got more to do with where you are standing relative to the sun, and anyway, so complicated is the Second World War, and so
I am also in favor of, like, come on, like, they're little kids. We're not going to teach them the incredible diverse theories of why is man and why is man. You can't teach that shit to children. What's a child's main concern? I'll tell you what a child's main concern is: going outside and playing with my toy trucks rather than sitting in this boring classroom studying a bunch of stupid numbers. Continuing on.
Ingrained into Western culture is the importance of the war, that a lot of governments still propagate myths that overplay the importance of certain events, or downplays the mistakes they made, and a lot of those myths are still taught to people in school, or historical documentaries, even if they have been widely disproven.
Yeah.
There is also the case of questionable sources, which can sometimes come from erroneous intelligence reports, or after-action reports, which were typically dramatized or edited for propaganda reasons. And while that was more common for the Germans, with their propaganda divisions often reshooting apparent battle scenes, if the lighting was wrong or if the commander's pose wasn't quite heroic enough, other nations, even on the Allied side, were not exactly being clean, with even a massive scandal erupting in the UK over the BBC's choice editing of what was going on. I mean, can you imagine the BBC lying to people? When would that ever happen today?
Wow, it's almost like the news media, no matter what country you're in, is biased.
And that's honestly just the tip of a very, very deep iceberg. To cut a long story short, you can come up with any theory on World War II and you'd be guaranteed to find something that would back it up. Be that a random comment a general made or some scribble in a margin somewhere. And this is not helped by our second problem. As I pointed out in the Drunk Rant stream, what happened after the war is just as important as what happened during. As after the war, you had a lot of German scientists and generals with nothing to really do. Not all of them were convicted of war crimes, either because they escaped or because they were genuinely innocent. But staying in Germany, these people would have faced a life of moderate poverty. Everything valuable had been looted, and what hadn't been looted had been blown to oblivion.
Yeah.
But a new world was forming, one with America at the helm. And like a boomer at a strip club, the US was throwing
What
a
the
lot
fuck?
of money around. What happened next was a slurry of memoirs of various German commanders, often written by themselves, proclaiming that their fight against the Russians was unfair, that the Russians threw endless wave after wave of their own men till the Germans had ran out of bullets, that supply issues and bad management on the upper echelons of the Nazi Party were responsible for Germany's defeats, and most importantly, not them. It's not my fault, they cry. It was Hitler for obsessing over Stalingrad. It was Alfred Rosenberg for turning Ukraine into slaves instead of allies. It was Goebbels for not releasing new tanks because he wanted to parade them through Berlin first. It was because we were fighting on multiple fronts. It was because of the rain, the mud, blah, 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 etc., etc.
You were
essentially
shit
trying to
commanders.
convey the message that had they had everything they needed, had they been given everything they demanded, they would have won. The unmitigated champion of this is Heinz Guderian, who, according to himself, pretty much invented German tank doctrine single-handedly.
No, you didn't.
He didn't, but that's for a different video.
Please.
Now, the reason they did this is because they wanted jobs in the new armies being formed by NATO in response to the rise of the USSR, and the scientists wanted the same. Many of them would go on to claim such ridiculous achievements, such as that of Italian scientist Giuseppe Bellizio, who claimed that the Germans had been working on saucer-shaped aircraft, many of which had gone into space. This formed the basis of the Nazi UFO myth in later years. Simply over-exaggerating.
The Nazi UFO myth. God! The only place the fucking UFO myth belongs is in fucking movies. Iron Sky was fucking hilarious. I don't know. Yeah, but honestly, oh my god, honestly, oh my god. Yeah. Most of these generals were like, oh shit, we're broke, and, oh wait a minute, the Americans, they're going up against the Russians. We can use that to our advantage. Bunch of shitheads. God. My grandfather was fucking right. My grandfather, the guy who was a paratrooper in World War II, he once told me a long, long time ago that one time he was actually just fucking, he was actually like had to work with some of these generals, and he was just, I remember him telling me like, yeah, they shouldn't have hired these fucks. They were a bunch of fucking idiots. If they were as good as they said they were, they would have beat us. Instead, we beat them all the way back to Berlin. What the fuck?
Claims or straight-up lying became the easy meal ticket of the German scientists. It guaranteed safe extradition to the US, a steady paycheck, and a comfortable laboratory in which they could experiment to their heart's content with little regard to if or not they actually achieved anything. The US had already achieved its end goal, which was to keep the vast bulk of German technology and its inventors out of Russian hands.
Yes.
Anything they did end up producing was simply considered a bonus. In fact, a lot of them weren't even taken seriously. Werner von Braun spent most of his time in America giving talks and speeches to rocket hobbyist groups in the US, up until the 1960s when he was finally hired by NASA. I'll do a separate video on him and his impact in the US space program at a later date because it is quite interesting.
It is.
Anyway, knowing all of
like, literally, when we got Werner von Braun, basically all we were really doing was just keeping him away from the Russians. We had no intention of actually using him or his designs. When we were building rockets and missiles and doing all that stuff, we didn't want to bring him in on it because we wanted it to be a strictly American rocket. The problem was a lot of our American rockets sucked because they were built by people that were just early Cold War. All the big hardcore generals, they were in politics, and basically all the other generals back then were just kissing ass. A lot of guys do that. Because they want to be politicians. Morons! Moving on. But yeah, believe it or not, there's actually, if you look through YouTube, there's actually, in fact, actually on Disney Plus, actually, they don't sponsor me. They don't sponsor me, but I'm still going to point this out. There's a lot of old, like, Disneyland TV show, like, programs that actually, when they talk about science, they actually bring Werner von Braun on. I am not even joking. Like, in fact, probably on YouTube somewhere, there is an old... He was pioneering a whole lot of interesting designs, and I so recommend looking them up, whether on YouTube or Disney Plus, because literally, it is very fascinating to see. Just, if we had let this guy, like just said, here's a blank check, all the equipment you need, go. If we had literally let him off the leash and just said, create, because Warner, he just wanted to go to space. He was a man who wanted humanity to go to space. Was he a perfect guy, and did he do a lot of horrible, did he probably do a lot of horrible shit during the war? Yeah. I don't know. There is just, I am nowhere qualified nor educated enough to truly ever judge him for whatever happened during the war. That is for people who have degrees and didn't drop out because I didn't want student debt. I'm so glad I made that choice, and I'm just an amateur historian. I am so happy for that. Moving on.
It's not hard to understand that a lot of German scientists would exaggerate their claims.
What else?
The Hortons were among them. The Horten Ho was captured as part of Operation Paperclip, the US's commando-style raid to liberate advanced Nazi technology and scientists before the Russians could get them.
And naturally, they wanted
to know what the fuck this thing was. Neither of the Horten brothers were successfully extradited to the US, as, contrary to popular belief, neither had really been part of the Horten Ho project. After fitting their glider design with jet engines, the prototype crashed, killing the test pilot, and the project was handed over to Gotthard Wabenfabrik, who designed the actual Horten we know today. The brothers, in an attempt to stay relevant and off the front lines, applied for Göring's America Bomber project, of which they were accepted. After the war, the brothers attempted to negotiate with the US and the UK. At the time, the UK was picking up every aircraft designer it could find, as it fully believed aircraft had played the most important role in the war. The UK had utterly dominated the aviation scene and was looking to capitalise. However, neither the UK nor the US were interested in the Horten brothers, and this is where we start to see those claims. Remar Horten, who later fled to Argentina, then attempted to sell his designs to China. This is where he made the claim that the Horten had been designed as a stealth plane, using a mixture of charcoal dust and glue to create a primitive anti-radar coating that would have helped it stay hidden in the specific radar frequencies the British were using. Now, such a claim had merit. It was widely believed that the coating, combined with the general shape of the aircraft's cross-section, would have made it almost invisible to the British home chain radar system. And so the myth was born. Nazi stealth fighter, Nazi stealth bomber. This is a backward engineered Nazi stealth bomber. No one can convince me otherwise.
Oh god, I remember that! Fuck!
Entire Antarctica base invisible to naked eye because advanced Nazi stealth tech. And this bullshit persisted for quite some time.
Yeah.
Until, of course, some people from Grumman, the company who designed and built the B-2 Spirit, decided to test that claim. Because you see, until then, they had never heard of this fucking thing. They built a replica of the V3 Horten, the final design of the aircraft intended for mass production, and tested it within their RCS lab and found that, no, it was not a stealth bomber. Well, considerably more stealthy than most other German planes around at the time, the British radar systems had no problem picking it up, even when it tried to fly at low altitude. And of course, Grumman had made something of a technical error when building their prototype.
Really?
It was made entirely out of wood. Now, wood does have some interesting radar-absorbing properties, which had intrigued the team, but wood alone does not a stealth fighter create, Mr. Sparks. And the actual design of the V3 Horten had steel tubes throughout the chassis, of which the wooden panels were bolted onto, meaning Grumman's replica was actually far more stealthy than the original V3. And to make matters worse, the last surviving model of the Horten was tested by the Smithsonian Institution, who found no evidence of the charcoal glue known as carbon black. But Grumman themselves tested the compound and found that its radar-absorbing properties were, lacking, and would have had no impact on the aircraft's stealth claim. That should have put to bed this myth once and for all, but it has persisted as, once again, if you squint slightly, it does kinda look like a stealth bomber, so maybe, just maybe, even if Horten's design didn't work, then maybe Grumman took inspiration from its design and perfected it, because it does look like a stealth bomber. Doesn't it? Alright, remember that American flying wing by Jack Northrop I said I'd show you later?
Yeah.
This is it here. This is the YB-35, flown in 1940, 4 years before the Horten, as a proposed prototype to a long-range bomber aircraft. The project was accepted, but was plagued by so many delays that by 1944 it was so behind schedule the Army cancelled their order in favour of a more conventional design. The suggestion was put forward to equip the plane with jet engines, to which the Americans refused to take seriously, until a fact-finding mission to the UK to look at aircraft prototypes. That prototype being the Mosquito, which the Americans were considering purchasing at the time.
They're good airplanes.
The story goes that one American general leaned towards an observing British scientist and made the joke, "You know, some people say we should be investing in jet planes." To which the scientist turned and said, "You should. You want to see ours?" The plane he was shown was the Gloucester E-2839, a British prototype for a jet plane. Shortly afterwards, the Americans purchased several British jet designs and began experimenting with them. In 1947, 2 YB-35s were fitted with jets and flown as the YB-49. Now look at this and Horton's design, and tell me which one you think looks more like a B-2 Spirit. Because the same company who built this, 1940, went on to build this in 1989.
Oh yeah, baby.
The Horton brothers and their jet-powered glider, though a fantastic and fascinating aircraft, had absolutely nothing to do with it. So if someone comes up to you and says the Nazis invented the stealth bomber, you now have just cause to beat their ass with a tire iron and scream, "No, they fucking didn't! What the? Where did you get? Do you even know anything? What the?
Oh wow, it's over. Wow, this was a quick one. I didn't really get. Well, I didn't lose my mind this time. Nice.
They won't leave at the night. I've no fear that they might discharge me.
Pig.
Diamonds are forever. Hold one up and then caress it. Touch it, stroke it, and undress it.
The fuck, pig?
I can see every part. Nothing hides in the heart to hurt me.
Okay. Wow. Bonus time. Do the April Fool's vid. You know what? I feel maybe doing the April Fool vid will do it. We'll do that one. Give me a second while I bring it up. Give me a second. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Let's see. Lazerpig. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm assuming it's the real Nazi UFO. Yeah. In April Fools. Okay. Let's. Man, man, this will be a little difficult to add on to. Actually, hang on 1 second. I gotta do something real quick. Hang on. Since now basically we are doing this in real time, I've got to also edit the title of this video because, yep. Okay. And paste. Okay, update. Great, it's longer than 120 characters. Fuck. I'll just take off the April Fools. Update? Fuck! I'll just, yeah. Alright, I guess it's, yeah. Whatever. Anyway, here we go. Okay. Anyway, let me. Anyway, I guess. Well, you people will know. You people will know. Okay, this is the real Nazi UFO story. Let's see what the fuck this is all about. The fuck? What the fuck? Oh, I just noticed my sound.
50 feet in size,
What the fuck?
defeating the Aztecs and founding the country of New Zealand in the process.
Hang on, no, I need to do this. Okay.
Alright.
What the fuck?
This is where we're at now.
You people need to hear this. What the
what
fuck?
It's all been building up to. Everyone was like, I want to hear you say it. And I'm like, well, what's there to say? But here we are. So quite frankly, it's your fault. And if you disagree, then you're a troll and need to shush. That's the UFOs, sometimes known as Natterfingerloperfans as a village sold and little big orders to be the Savannah, Ocean Village, Little Big Legion, Fantasy couldn't be less than Hada.
What?
Or simply, Spinny hit their party disc, were invented by famed Euro fashion designer, his hair and foundation little fella Fosseton, who once led a 6-week fashion expedition into the Arctic to discover a new color. He was inevitably attacked by the Aztecs.
By the Aztecs.
But remaining cool under pressure, his hair grew up to 50 feet in size, defeating the Aztecs and founding the country of New Zealand in the process. He was later rescued by an elite team of furries who had organized a charity orgy on his behalf.
What?
There were no survivors.
The fuck?
Bear was then later rescued from his rescuers by the Walls Ice Cream Company. Yes, one gonna give it to me. Who summoned a giant Italian in the sky to lead everybody to safety. All of this was fully documented on the Rubaiyat, a collection of poems by some Russian guy, I don't know. Elite SEAL Team MI6 CIA Danger 5 operative Mike Sparks was later dispatched to recover the treasured Bayat from its secret lair aboard the Titanic.
The fuck?
However, with time running out and the iceberg, a CIA operative itself, mere miles away, many thought the book lost to the depths of time. But thinking fast, Mike Sparks was able to fashion together a pair of small bi-wing planes and a single electric propeller and flew the Titanic to safety, where it remains to this day. Hearing of this, Adolf Hitler summoned the legendary Legatus 5 region, secret legion of elite Roman soldiers secretly working for the Nazis to undermine Jesus. Using their famed human pyramid attack vector, they were unfortunately stopped by Queen Victoria, who, thanks to advanced British science, now composed of 95% of the sun. Enraged at this bitter disappointment, Hitler led the second expedition himself to the bottom of the sea, where an advanced array of eldritch science previously unmentioned invaded France with the single intention of capturing the Eiffel Tower, the industrial age intergalactic starship previously used by Napoleon to defeat the Martians in 486 BC.
What the fuck?
Most recently by NASA, prior to being censored by the CIA. Hence why I'm not allowed to show you this footage, and has nothing to do with me not being able to bother to animate the scene. Hitler's intention to freeze the sun were thwarted again by James Bond, totally real, using his newly armed Titanic as a super weapon. He would then later go on to destroy the Death Star or something. I don't know, I fell asleep in history class. Hitler himself, previously a clown after being returned by his mother from the womb to the fairy godmother, who proposed the return purchase if unhappy with after 30 days.
What the fuck?
To use his new power to erect himself, visibly, for miles.
The fuck is that?
Destroyed by a single young Japanese girl. The name of that girl, Albert Einstein. And that is the story of the first Thanksgiving. Good night. Once more, you and you're here in my heart.
What the fuck was that? Suddenly, I'm gonna go find Alex Jones. I'm gonna give him a drink. I'm gonna buy him a fucking drink. I can't. No. I thought I made it through without breaking. I thought I made it through a fucking Lazerpig video without fucking breaking for once. But no, that cannot happen. I am designed to solely fucking suffer. Oh, I'll do the I am a poll video itself because honestly, just from the looks of it, compared to this, that one fucking deserves its own fucking video. You all do this to me. You all do this to me. I am just so lucky I get paid for the pleasure of having you do this to me. I'm gonna just lay down on this bed until the pain goes away. As always, you know who I am. I know who you are. You know how the fuck the rest of it goes. I'm gonna go lie down until the pain goes away. Damn you all. Damn you all to hell!